Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sportsocology Show. I'm your host, Bill Knudsen. This is the first time ever, I believe, that I've done the show on Sunday, and it's about 10:20 Eastern Time, Sunday night, as I'm recording this show. It's been a wild and crazy weekend, and I'm sure all of you out there can relate to one of those. I tried to get my first ever video show yesterday because this is, if you haven't counted each week, this is my 30th show that I've done. So I figured I've been talking about doing a video show, for the last month or two, and hadn't done it, and I decided I was going to try and do it yesterday, hook up with my cousin Ken up in Massachusetts, my brother Mike, my friend Daniel. I had a party over here for my fantasy football draft yesterday, which I'll let you know the team that I picked and see what you think. But anyway, I thought I had it pretty well planned, and my cousin Ken told me, he was pretty busy, and it was kind of unlikely that he was going to be able to do the show, and but I had my brother planned and my friend Daniel planned, and I was supposed to have my draft at 1 o'clock, but then there were problems. The draft didn't start till almost 2:30, and by the time it got finished, it was after 5:30, and that's when all the big games were coming on. I live here in Atlanta, so the Georgia game was on at 5:30, and then I'm a big LSU fan, and they played Wisconsin at 9 o'clock, and I was like, all right, it just wasn't to be yesterday. And for a moment, I tried to get the video show planned for today, but, my brother, a couple of friends, they weren't available today. So I just told Ken, I'm going to try and set it up for next week. So it's just going to be a regular audio show. Sorry about that. But I'll do my best to entertain you. And that's about it on that. All right, I'm going to get into a couple of things. Unfortunately, I've got another vent I'll save for the end of the show, but I got a couple of things to talk about. First of all, my fantasy draft. I'm just going to quickly go through the team that I was fortunate enough to pick, and, if you want to jot it down and let me know what you think, or just keep a couple of the key players or whatever in your mind and let me know what you think. I'd appreciate it. Let me know if you think I've got a shot. Obviously, there's a lot of luck involved because there'll be some duds that turn into studs. There'll be some studs that end up duds through injury or just having bad seasons or whatever. And then there'll be guys that nobody drafted or nobody thought would do anything, whatever, that will end up doing stuff. So you never know. With all of those things put into place, you never know. But anyway, and I'll even give them to you in the order that I picked them, just so you can see what my thought process was. Now in my draft, there's 16 rounds, so you get 16 picks. So in the first round, I play in a 10-team league. This year there were only 10 teams. So I picked number 6 in the first round. And most leagues, whatever number you pick in the first round is the way you stay for all the rounds. But after every 4 or 5 rounds, we repick the order. So, it changes it up. So it was I had 3 different draft orders. But I started at number 6. And when it came to number 6, my first pick was Megatron, Calvin Johnson, the great wide receiver of the Detroit Lions. Very happy with that. He's only had one bad season, and my brother doesn't want to talk about that because he picked Calvin Johnson overall, and the only bad season a Calvin Johnson ever had was the time my brother picked him first overall. I think he only scored 4 touchdowns that year. Every other year, he's been the Megatron we all know and love. So I'm hoping that he's the same this year. Now, Monday night, I'm sure you all know, my Giants are in Detroit playing the Lions. So I've got a strange dilemma. Obviously, I want Calvin Johnson to have a great night, but I want the Giants to win the game. Now, Can I get that? Can I get a great night from Calvin Johnson and still have the Lions lose? I don't know, but that's what I'm hoping for. My second pick was a running back, Monty Ball from the Denver Broncos. Now I'm hoping, obviously, with the prolific passing game that every defense has to worry about when they play Denver, that the passing game will open up the running game for Monty Ball. Usually it's the running game that opens up the passing game, but I think with Manning and the Broncos, it's the other way around, that the passing game will open it up, and I certainly hope it does, because I need Monty Ball to go wild. I've only won one championship in the 7 years that I've played, and it was my rookie year 7 years ago, so I'm long overdue for a championship. I'll go quickly through the others. My third pick, I picked Tom Brady as my starting quarterback. Enough said, obviously. He's good. My fourth pick, I went back to wide receiver. I got Randall Cobb of the Green Bay Packers. So he's got a really tough assignment to open the season Thursday night up in Seattle against the Legion of Boom. It's going to be very tough, but I'm hoping the offensive line will hold up and allow Rodgers to find Randall Cobb early and often. My fifth pick was Shane Vereen, a running back from the New England Patriots. I'm hoping that goes well. Pick number 6, I got another running back, Toby Gerhardt of Jacksonville. Now, I know he's been a backup the last 4 years in Minnesota to Adrian Peterson. Of course, he didn't get a ton of playing time. But now he's the man in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville doesn't have much going for it. You know, I know they have Bortles, so they might have a little bit of a passing game when and if Bortles gets in there. But they don't really have a passing game to speak of or a running game. So I'm really hoping that they rely heavily on Toby Gerhardt and he can get me some touchdowns. My seventh pick, Victor Cruz of the New York Giants. I know Eli probably had his worst season last year, or his second to worst. Maybe his rookie year was worse. I don't know. But I'm hoping that Eli rebounds. And now with Hakeem Nicks not there, I'm thinking that Victor Cruz might be the number one option. So I'm hoping that Cruz has a big year as well as the Giants. My eighth pick, I decided, usually I pick up my backup quarterback in my 16-round league, maybe down 10 or 10 to 12 area. But at number 8, I took my backup quarterback because I was like, okay. I was surprised he was still there. I picked up Big Ben Roethlisberger in the 8th round as my backup quarterback. So I'm feeling pretty good there. Hopefully that'll be good. Pick number 9. I went back to the receiver core. Actually, I got a tight end, technically. So I picked up Jordan Cameron from the Cleveland Browns. They don't have much, in the receiving area because Josh Gordon, their stud receiver, is suspended for the whole year for his stupidity. Don't get me started on him, but like I said, I'm going to be venting later, and I might end up throwing him in, I don't know. But I have another vent that I'll get to a little bit later in the show. At number 10, I went back to running back, and I took Jeremy Hill, who was a stud at LSU. Now he's a rookie for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know they have Giovanni Bernard, but if Bernard gets hurt, I think he got a little banged up last year. I'm thinking they just got rid of the law firm, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. So Jeremy Hill, might be able to help me, but, he's my 4th running back. He's not a starter. So pick number 11 was another running back from Buffalo. I got Fred Jackson. So again, he's a backup. He's my 5th running back. And in my league, you start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and you have a flex pick. You can either add a 3rd running back or a 3rd wide receiver every week. That's up to you. At number 12, I usually wait till, maybe the 2nd to last pick. Always, I've always picked the kicker last. This year I picked the kicker 2nd to last. I don't know why, I just did. But at pick number 12 out of 16, I took the Arizona Cardinals defense. I think they're getting the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu back. Patrick Peterson just got a big extension. And I'm hoping that, they cause some havoc. I know they play in the toughest division in football, probably having to deal with Seattle and San Francisco and St. Louis and those guys, but hopefully Arizona will step up and get me some points, on defense. Pick 13, I went another tight end. It's been a few years since I picked up a tight end. I usually get 6 wide receivers each year, but I picked up Jason Witten from Dallas. So he's actually my 5th receiver. But I went 2 tight ends in a row. I don't know why. They just kind of stood out. Pick number 14, I picked up Sammy Watkins from Buffalo, the rookie from Clemson. Now I know he's got some bruised ribs. I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. And he has all kinds of stud potential. Right now he's number 6 of my 6 wide receivers. Obviously that can change if a few games in, he's just tearing everything up. I might have to put him into my starting lineup, or at least give him a shot, but we'll see. Pick number 15. In our league, you don't pick a particular kicker. You just pick a team and whatever kicker they happen to have. Obviously, you're normally going for a particular person kicking for that team. But no matter who kicks for that team, that's who you get. And I thought it was going to be Shane Graham, but shortly after my draft yesterday, the Saints cut Shane Graham. But, they're an NFL organization. I'm figuring they're not stupid. Obviously, they weren't going to let Shane Graham go if they didn't think they had somebody that was better. And the Saints obviously play their 8 home games in the Superdome in New Orleans, and 3 of their 8 road games this year are also in dome stadiums. So my kicker's going to be kicking indoors in perfect weather conditions 11 of the 16 regular season games. So I thought that was pretty good. And my final pick was my 6th and final running back. I got Roy Halou from the Washington Redskins, who I play in a PPR league. Anybody who doesn't know, that means points per reception. You get a point for every catch that you make, and Halou's been pretty good in the past at that. But again, he's my 6th running back, and each week I would either start 2 or 3 running backs, depending on the matchups and how guys are doing, things of that nature. But that's my team. I'm hoping that this is the championship team. I haven't won the championship since 2007. I make the playoffs and, things like that, but haven't been able to win it all in 7 years. So I'm ready to bring home the championship, and I talk smack every year, And that first year that I started, I won, but since then, I've been getting knocked out of the playoffs. So I'm ready to win a title. That's my team. If you want, let me know what you think. And that's about it on the fantasy football draft. I'm ready for Thursday night. I'm excited. All right. Probably I'm going to try, like I told, Ken, and I sent him a message saying I was going to try and set up the video, my first ever video show. Next week I'm going to try and get my brother, a friend or two, try and hook up with Ken, see how that works. I'll get into, the NFL, who I think will win each division, wild cards, who's going to win each conference, and who's going to win the Super Bowl, even before the season starts, and see how crazy, or not so crazy, who knows, picks can be without even seeing them play a regular season game. But whether I hook up the video with the guys or not, I'll get much more into the NFL next weekend. I realize the Packers and Seahawks will have already played by then, but obviously I can still make the picks for all of those things, even after one game, even though one game had been played. Baseball's coming down to the nitty-gritty. Unfortunately, my Mets, they're going to be home watching the playoffs like they have been every year since '06, and then for a lot of years before that. There is some potential, maybe with the pitching. We need to get a bat or two. We just don't have much power except for Lucas Duda. The bullpen is a shambles. I think we can get me and 10 of my friends, and we could do just as good a job as the bullpen has done, for a lot less money. We can go in and blow every other opportunity that we get. If we had just, if we could just play the Phillies, because we've beaten up on the Phillies the last 3 or 4 years, especially at their place. We've been a little more respectable against, the Braves here in Atlanta where I live. I hate the Braves. This year was 7-9 against them. I believe going into the season, the last 3 years, we were 500 against them. Excuse me. So we've been playing a lot more respectably against them the last 3 or 4 years than we did the previous 15 to 20, where we basically lost every season for 15 years. Not just every season series, but just about every individual series for like 15 years. My original playoff prediction from many months ago, I picked Tampa Bay to win the title. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I did have them with the Dodgers in the World Series, and certainly the Dodgers have an excellent chance. The Angels are looking really good. It wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a Los Angeles Freeway Series between the two, because they seem to be the two best teams. But I think the Cardinals might have something to say about it. Maybe the Nationals or the Braves. I picked the Nationals to win the division. They've got a 6-game lead as I'm doing this show, so it looks like the Nationals will win the division. I have believed the whole year that the Braves would get a wild card spot. I said so, even when they had that 0-8 road trip about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago. I said they're still going to get a wild card spot, and I want to say they're like a game and a half out of the second wild card spot. But I believe the Braves will get that wild card spot. I hope not. And I'm hoping that when the Mets come down here, September 19th, 20th, and 21st, I will be at all 3 of those games. It's a little man trip weekend. Me and my brother and a friend of mine, my friend Daniel, are spending the man trip weekend in Atlanta, going to the Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon game, and doing a little man trip thing, leaving the ladies at home. Mike and I will be dressed head to toe in Mets gear. We'll be loud and obnoxious, hopefully often, because the Mets are doing well. But we'll see. We'll have a good time either way. Obviously, I want the Mets to win the series, sweep the series. But, I'm kind of realistic. It's been kind of a nightmare in Atlanta the last 20 years for the Mets. I'm just hoping not to get swept. If you're going to lose the series, at least get one while we're there. Please, let us have some enjoyment while we're there. Anyway, I'm going to go on to some little bit of college football before I do my final rant. I was watching some of the higher-ranked teams. Now, granted, these were preseason rankings before anybody played, and the only rankings that are going to make a difference come out October 28th, when that 13-person panel will come out with the first official top 25, and that ranking system is the only one that matters, because they will decide the top 4 when it's all said and done that will be in the playoffs to decide the national championship. So these preseason rankings really don't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything for a couple of months. But going by those rankings, number 1, Florida State, they played unranked Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State gave them everything they wanted and more. 37-31, Florida State held on, survived. Jameis Winston, he's a national champion. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. I don't like him. I think he's a piece of crap. I'm sure you've heard the stories about him stealing food from the store, and he's been charged with, or, investigated at least twice for sexual assault. So I think he's just a scumbag, but he's a great athlete, and he didn't get officially charged with the sexual assaults or whatever. So maybe he didn't do it. I don't know. I tend to think, where there's smoke, there's fire. It happened more than once. But again, I don't know for sure. Just don't like the guy. I'm not going to root for him. You know. So I was kind of hoping Florida State would go down, but they hung on. Number 2, Alabama, struggled. They played right here in Atlanta, just about half an hour from my house at the Georgia Dome. They struggled with West Virginia. West Virginia hung in. Really shouldn't have. Alabama was a 25-point favorite. I thought they'd win by at least that much. But they struggled, getting their stuff together, whatever. Struggled to a 33-23 win. I think Alabama will be there at the end in the Final Four. Florida State will be, because the ACC is weak. They're going to win that conference. I don't think anybody will beat them. Alabama, on the other hand, may lose a game because they play in a much tougher conference. Now, I'm not going to say Florida State's not talented. They're loaded with talent. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not going to say the ACC is scrubs. I'm not going to say they're scrubs. But, how I've gone on about, in the past, teams getting all these high rankings because they played in a nothing conference and played nobody. I'm not going to say that about Florida State. The ACC is not nobody, but they're not powerful either. So Florida State's going to have an easy walk, in my opinion, into the Final Four. Alabama will get there just because Nick Saban is the best coach in the country. His players will put it together, and I'd say there's a good chance they'll win the SEC. Obviously, I want LSU to win the SEC, but I think Alabama will, and they'll get there. Ohio State, they were a top 5. They lost their star quarterback. I don't know if they're still going to be that good or not. They struggled a bit with Navy. They ended up winning 34-17, but the game really wasn't as close. It wasn't as, 17 points sounds like not really a blowout, but sounds like they won comfortably. They really didn't. They played a bit sloppily. Navy hung in. But Ohio State took care of business, and that's obviously the main thing. Closer to home, here in Georgia, University of Georgia played Clemson. It was a close game into the third quarter. And then Gurley, the running back for Georgia, just went wild. The kid is talented. He's fast, he's strong, has no weaknesses, scored 3 touchdowns on offense, also returned a kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown, so he scored 4 times against a good Clemson team, so that's a quality win. So I would say, of the ranked teams, Georgia probably had the best win, considering how well they played and the opponent they played. Georgia's win was probably the most impressive. But obviously the game that was most interesting to me, even above the Georgia game, was 9 o'clock last night, the LSU-Wisconsin game. And for the first little over 2 quarters, LSU got totally played. The running back for Wisconsin, he's really good. He's fast, he's strong, he's definitely a Heisman candidate. He ran all over LSU in the first half of the game. LSU couldn't get anything going, didn't get much of a passing game except the one 80-yard pass they got for a touchdown, but that was it. They didn't have much of a running game or a passing game in the first half. The defense, they were getting chewed up with the running game. Wisconsin wasn't even throwing the ball, but the running game was just chewing them up. And, LSU was down 17-7 at halftime. Wisconsin got the opening kick in the third quarter, took it right down, scored a touchdown, 24-7 with like 12 minutes to go in the third. I'm not liking it. I'm saying to myself, LSU gets this ball. Still got, most of the second half left, down by 17. I said, but it's going to be looking bad if we don't get a touchdown on this drive, or at least a field goal to cut it to 24-10 to a 2-possession game. They did get a field goal, cut it to 24-10, and the defense stepped up from there. They got another field goal. They got a touchdown with a 2-point conversion, got another touchdown, and just totally shut Wisconsin down for almost the entire second half after the initial drive. Totally shut them down, didn't give them any points, shut down the run, shut down the pass, got some pressure on the quarterback, got 2 picks, and pulled out a nice win for themselves. LSU's talented, but they're very young, they're very raw. So I think teams like Auburn and Alabama and, maybe an Ole Miss or something like that will have a good chance of beating them. I picked LSU to go 8-4, maybe 9-3 during the regular season if things work out well. Maybe next season LSU will be better. Young quarterbacks will have another year of experience. Defense, offensive line, another year of experience. But that's kind of where I'm going with LSU. 8-4, maybe 9-3. Excuse me, during the season. But I'm hoping for better. All right, I'm going to wrap this up with a little vent. We've heard, Ray Rice and his domestic violence. I thought it was a joke that he only got 2 games. But we've got all of these idiots, and you've heard me say it several times, out there beating on their women, doing the performance-enhancing drugs, getting the DUIs, smoking the reefer, like those 2 morons I talked about last week, smoking the reefer, driving down to the team plane, getting pulled over. But so the other day, the NFL comes out with a new policy. They didn't come out and say. They went way too lightly on Ray Rice with the 2-game suspension. But by coming out with this new rule shortly after, it was the other day, maybe 3 days ago, excuse me, they came out with the domestic violence clause. You get 6 games for the first offense and a lifetime ban for the second offense. And you can apply for reinstatement after 1 year if you get a lifetime ban. Okay, so this just came out a couple of days ago. And this moron, again, another moron, obviously knows about all of these other things. This moron, Ray McDonald, defensive lineman for the 49ers, gets arrested for domestic violence today. And it's like, all right, you're obviously stupid. We get it. Because just you personally, you're stupid. But about all of these other things, like I just mentioned with the pot, the other drugs, the violence, the DUIs. Your own teammate, also on your defense, Aldon Smith, is out at least 4 games. It may even be longer than that he's going to miss because of DUI. And the domestic violence clause just came out the other day, and you go out and you beat on your woman. You're a real tough guy. Go out and beat on a woman. Some man you are. I want to grow up. When I grow up, I want to be just like Ray McDonald, a woman beater, really intelligent, just like he is. Can you sense the sarcastic tone in my voice? This guy is an idiot. So I don't know what the 49ers are planning on. They've got 2 of their top defensive players suspended. Well, McDonald's not suspended yet, but he's got to be suspended at least 6 games, right? The rule came out the other day. If this is his first offense, he's got to be suspended at least 6 games. I'm not sure about Aldon Smith. He's suspended at least 4, but I want to say it might even be longer than that. But I don't know. I'm just so tired of this. Like I said last week, am I going to stop watching football? Of course not. Am I going to stop watching baseball, basketball, hockey, boxing? Of course not. I've loved them my entire life since I was in the womb and before. I love sports so much. But, I'm just so sick of this. Can we hear and see a lot more of the classy guys, please? That's just not going to happen. I know they're out there. I know there are nice guys that just go about, playing the sport, doing their job the best they can. They're not beating up their women. They're not beating up their women. They're not smoking dope. They're not getting DUIs. They're not doing other drugs. They're not saying all these stupid things on Twitter and other social media. They have brains in their head. But we hardly ever hear from them. We hardly ever see, what they have to say. It's all the ignorance, all the stupidity, all the morons, all the jerks. That's all we ever see. It's getting harder and harder to think there's a lot of good in the world. I like to think that, but it's getting harder and harder to see that with, everything you see on the news. But I'm hoping that people far superior intellect to me can figure out a way to get these fools, these ignoramuses, to try and act like decent human beings and just go out and do your job. But, I'm hopeful, but don't worry, I'll still be there. Thursday night, Packers Seahawks. I don't like the Seahawks. I hope the Packers run wild on the Seahawks. I don't see that happening at all. I don't see the Packers winning that game at all. But if they don't, I hope Randall Cobb gets a lot of catches and yards and touchdowns for the Packers. I'll be rooting for the Packers. We'll see. I'm going to be there on Saturday for all the great college football. Of course, I will be there Sunday for all the great NFL football. And Monday, the 2 NFL games. I'll be watching the baseball, playoffs get put together as the season's coming to an end. I'll be there. I'll be watching. I'll be wearing all the jerseys, doing my thing. But 48 years old now. I'm getting less and less tolerant every year. I'm getting crabbier and crabbier, like Oscar the Grouch or the Grinch or, Ebenezer Scrooge or whatever kind of grouch you want to come up with. But I'll still be there. I'll be supporting the sports, and I know all of you will be too. All right, anyway, that's all I've got for a very rare Sunday night, late Sunday night show. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all for listening. Follow me at Twitter. You know how to do it. Follow me on Facebook. You know how to do it. You know where to find the show, the Sportsocology Show on YouTube. Do me a favor. If you like the show, talk to your coworkers, classmates if you're in school, family, friends. Get them to check it out. Ken, get out there, tell your friends, your cousin's on the air. He might be obnoxious and opinionated, but he's an all right guy. Tell your friends, tell your family. Get them out there. They just might like what they hear. Or, they can give me advice on what they'd like to hear or not like to hear. I'm a very reasonable guy. Let me know what you think. But anyway, normally I would say have a nice weekend because I normally do the show, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. But the weekend's basically over. Hopefully you have the Monday off. So, have a great Monday, whatever you're doing. I hope your weekend was great and you enjoyed all the college football and all that. And, get out there and have a good time. Work hard. Ken, I know you're up there working hard. Hope I can catch you for next weekend's show. Hopefully you can give me 20 or 30 minutes. I'll be in touch with you during the week. But you're working hard. Got total respect for that. But anyway, thanks again for listening. Have a great day tomorrow. Hopefully you have it off. And I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.